Booktube Science Fiction Reads here with a small book haul, and then I'm going to attach another book haul afterwards that I already filmed a couple weeks ago. And then I might talk about things I just started reading or might consider reading, because otherwise I have not read much since my last recent reads. A couple Silverbergs, which I did enjoy, but I'm going to read a little more before I do a recent reads. But just to start things off here, we'll get through these mostly thrift store finds. This is the Picture of Dorian Gray Penguin edition. Never read it, but you know, this had like an uncracked spine. I thought I might pick that up because it was $1 at a thrift store. Then an Arthur C. Clarke that gave me a little bit of confusion. It's called The Space Dreamers. I thought I hadn't heard of it, but it turns out this was released as over the years, released with 3 different titles. One of the first things he wrote, and it's really just a detailed account of the first trip to the moon, written at some point in the 50s, 1954, so before such a thing had actually occurred. Unfortunately, this is a few pages falling out, but for a couple dollars I couldn't resist grabbing a Clarke I don't have. It's got that awesome purple text block. It's a Lancer book from 1969. Next up, I was quite pleased to find this, The Ragged Astronauts by Bob Shaw. One in a trilogy. I have another one, can't think of which now, but I'll put up a picture. So I've got one to go before I can read this very interesting looking, sounding trilogy from Bob Shaw. I think the other one I have is The Wooden Spaceships, and they all have excellent cover art. This is an Orbit book from '86. And then a C.J. Cherryh, The Tree of Swords and Jewels. This is a fantasy that I have passed on buying, 100 times, but I found it for $1 with a nice uncracked spine, so I picked it up to go along with the other yellow spine DAWs I have of hers. This one does not have an illustration in the front, though, from 1983. Couple Poul Andersons I know really nothing about. I just didn't recognize the titles, so I picked them up. I have plenty of Poul Anderson, so I'll only pick them up if they're very cheap. There was plenty there. I just picked up a couple that sounded interesting. I just don't remember what the synopses are after a couple weeks now, but this was first written in '56, and this is a 1979 Ace edition, and the cover art is Michael Whalen. One of my favorites, one of the most known science fiction cover artists. Then we've got Hal Clement, The Nitrogen Fix. This is a massive novel. And I don't mind Hal Clement. I've enjoyed most of what I've read of him. This is from 1980. It's an Ace book. Yeah, he does aliens good, and he does hard science fiction good. Then I recently read The Best of Raymond Gloon with Ira and Richard, and we all really loved Richard Gloon, so much so that I think we all started researching him and trying to track down books of his and whatnot, but I wanted to learn more about him, so I found this interview of his in a 1980s copy of Foundation, the magazine, number 22. It says on the front, Raymond Z. Gloon traces his origins. There's articles by Brian Stableford. Others names I don't recognize, but there's also book reviews from Michael Bishop, Clute, Greenland, Harrison, Pratt, Stableford. And it actually shows you the books, or at least the authors, that they are critiquing or reviewing. So this is actually really cool. But first and foremost, I just wanted to read about Raymond Gloon. So it's something like a 11-page article, which starts with, I am now close to 70. Back as far as my memory can go, there are a few trace impressions printed deep by emotional impact. Like, what an epic starting to reminiscing on his life, basically. And I think this might just be an excerpt from his autobiography. I'm not sure. I still haven't read it. It's just sitting and waiting. I've read nothing really for a week or so. And then the last find, just the other day, is this Ursula K. Le Guin book club bind-up of 3 novels. This has Rokanan's World, which I think I have a first printing of that as an ace double. But it also has Planet of Exile and City of Illusions, neither of which I've read. It just lists, the first 2 are from 66 and City of Illusion is from 67. But I don't actually know when this book club was printed, but a fairly decent copy. I wrapped it in a jacket. It does have, you know, wear and tear, but yeah. That's basically things I've picked up or ordered in the mail, and now some things I got from Norm at the bookstore on Pluto. All right, so all of these books are from Norm at the bookstore on Pluto. He runs a science fiction fantasy online bookstore and is local to me. So up first we've got Neanderthal Planet by Brian Aldiss, which I think is 3 novellas, or 4 short stories or novellas. I'm looking to collect more of him after really enjoying Hot House. And this is a first Avon printing from 1970. Then I got a Murray Leinster SOS from 3 Worlds. This one is 3 short stories, I think all connected to some sort of like interplanetary medic. Interstellar, actually, which sounds awesome. These are from 59, 64, and 66. Plague on Crydor 2 is the first story. But actually there's a picture at the front. I actually went through this because there's no table of contents, so I had to track down the titles of the stories. The second one is Ribbon in the Sky. And the last one is Quarantine World. And altogether this is 140 pages. So this would be a quick, easy read. So quick I could read it twice because I accidentally bought it twice. Norm has a like $1 to $2 bin, and I'm guessing this showed up in there twice and I just didn't remember that I had previously bought it. Next up is Arthur K. Barnes' Interplanetary Hunter. I've been hoping to find this for a while. I don't know much about it other than it's like pulp era type stories. And look at this, there's actually illustrations in here. I think they're just short stories about a character traveling to different locations and hunting down alien wildlife, which sounds awesome. I haven't read anything by him. Excellent cover art too. Let's just see if there's credit for that. Doesn't look like it. This is the first ace printing of these stories collected together, and it's from 1972. Then I've got H. Rider Haggard's The People of the Mist in this awesome looking, what it is, must be Ballantine copy. The great illustration. It's like a Lost World somewhere in Africa type story. With an introduction by Lynn Carter. Yeah, that looks really good. Robert Silverberg's Tower of Glass. I just recently read his The Man in the Maze and really enjoyed it. And this is one of his from around the same period that really appeals to me. Sounds interesting. I think a lot of androids who start worshiping their creator or something. And again, really short. I really enjoyed the last one I read, so I'm looking forward to more Silverberg. Then we've got a Pan book, C.S. Lewis, Out of the Silent Planet. Finally, I have completed this trilogy. It's taken like 2 or 3 years to find them all. So mine are by Pan, but they are a different livery, but whatever. I'm happy to have these. The complete collection now. John Christopher's No Blade of Grass. Richard at Vintage SF recommended this to me. I think I had already bought it and I mentioned it to him. And I said I was looking for something that kind of made me feel like I did when I read Earth Abides by George R. Stewart and Thomas M. Dish's The Genocides. So I'm hoping this is a similar atmosphere. This is an Avon book from 1980, but the story I believe is from 56. Next up, I've got 3 here from Richard Saxon, which is not an author I've read. Cosmic Crusade. I bought all 3 of these. Only one of these, synopsis-wise, appealed to me, but Norm was selling them for all 3 for basically the price of 1 or something. So I picked up all 3, and at the moment, I can't remember which one I was interested in. But I'll hold on to the other 2 in case I really enjoy whichever it was that caught my eye. Here's another from his $1 or $2 bin, A Very Private Life by Michael Frayn. Something about the synopsis really appealed to me. It's been weeks since I bought this though, so I don't really remember much about it now. But this is a Dell book from 1969 with some great cover art. I don't know if we have a credit for it. No, not that I can see. It's Richard Powers-ish. All right, then I've got some Lynn Carter here. I just noticed I had nearly all of these Da stories in this series, the Green Star series or something. So I picked up In the Green Stars Glow and As the Green Star Rises, which now I have all 5 in the series, I believe. And I think they're just going to be like Edgar Rice Burroughs type stories. That tends to be Lynn Carter's thing. He doesn't really have his own style. He tends to just adopt other people's styles and or even just continue stories set in other authors' universes at times. This is something of his he wrote, though, Keswick, which I just really wanted it for the cover art. I love these old DAWs. But I think this is like a comedy fantasy that references a lot of other fantasy works. Let's just see if we get an illustration. Oh, we actually don't get an illustration in that one. Just go back to the other 2. Lynn Carter's. I love when the DAWs have the front illustration, and we got another one there. And one other DAW, this is CJ Cherry's Port Eternity, which I already have in book club edition, and probably a paperback too, but I don't have it in a DAW, and I have a number of her books in the DAW Yellow Spines, so I grabbed this as well. It's a beat up copy, so it did not cost much. Let's do these hardcovers here. I got this really random hardcover by Jeffrey Lloyd Castle. Does not have very high reviews or ratings on Goodreads, nor does his only other science fiction. But what appealed to me is that it involves, first of all, it is from quite early on. This was published in 57, but it is a book club edition, so I'm not sure actually how old the story is. But it involves exploring Venus and finding that Egyptians had long ago created spacecraft and made it to Venus. But the reviews are not great, but that does sound interesting, so I'm going to hold on to it. I wrapped it in a jacket because actually the original dust jacket is not bad, so now it feels and looks nice. Similar to this, A Choice of Gods by Clifford D. Simak. I already had a paperback copy that Ira at SF Words of Wonder sent me. I believe it's a copy of this he sent me. But I also have a lot of Simak book club editions, so anytime I find them for cheap, I scoop them up. And just 3 more. A real random here from David Bergamini, Venus Development. I'll have to refresh my memory by looking into this, but I think it's kind of a scientists versus politicians type story that also takes place on Venus. From 1976, yeah, I think a bunch of scientists are brought together to colonize or something to do with Venus, and they kind of take the situation into their own hands. From what I remember, it sounded interesting. This is a popular library book from, I already said 1976, but I don't have many popular library science fiction books. Love the cover art. Another curious one. And the last two are part of I think it's just a duology. I don't know if there's more than this. I can't remember now. It's Donald Moffat's Genesis Quest books. These, I think Peter at West Coast Books, I can't quite remember the name of your channel right now, Peter, but I'll probably tag you. I think he got one of these, or both, in a book haul, and they sounded pretty interesting, some space opera. So I grabbed that, and the second one, Second Genesis. I don't think I've heard anybody talk about these, and they just sounded curious. They're Del Rey's from, I would guess, the early 80s, 86. Cover art by Ralph McQuarrie, at least for the first. And yeah, 86, and cover art by Ralph McQuarrie. So those sounded interesting to me. I'm happy to have those because I couldn't find them, and then Norm finally just happened to have them. And then things I'm currently reading. I just recently started the Best of Elsbreg de Camp. This is the next group read, or buddy read, I should say, that I'm doing with Richard and Ira. And I've enjoyed mostly what I've read so far. Then I recently finished, I haven't talked about it yet, Hawksbill Station by Robert Silverberg. So I'm still really enjoying Robert Silverberg. So I thought I might read this collection of 5 stories of his that I got recently. Just looks awesome too. And I believe that's actually a depiction from the cover story. So looking forward to that. And then I also just listened to a podcast episode. I think they are called Thumbing Through Pages. I'll put a link to them. They review all kinds of books, but often science fiction, and they recently were talking about Robert Heinlein's Tunnel in the Sky. I have not read any Robert Heinlein yet. Maybe short story here and there, most likely, but no novels. And I have a box of his stuff, mostly from 2 big hauls over the years where there was a lot of Heinlein in them. But yeah, I have tons of his books, but I think this is one of his juvenile novels, but it really sounded interesting, so I might give that a try. I should. I haven't been reading classic vintage SF for, close to a decade, and I've read no Heinlein. So yeah, following the tale of a slump in reading, I'm off to a good start with the Best of Elsbreg de Camp, and really loving Robert Silverberg, so probably going to continue with him. As always, thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.